With VeggieTales in the city, you would think that the show would know better than to give LarryBoy a back seat on a potentially good adventure or to not use him at all. You'd think that they would learn something from VeggieTales in the house. However, LarryBoy Purgatory also has a place in VeggieTales in the city. A city which is basically the Veggie house, only they threw in tall buildings to make it seem bigger and more exciting. So far, this spin-off show has spawned 2 seasons, along with the rumor of not getting another season, unless Big Idea renews their contract with Netflix, or they go back to their original formula of being direct-to-DVD releases. Honestly, I don't know what to think of that. Now, I don't know if I like the looks of somebody shoving food into their mouth as part of the cover art for this show. I mean, honestly, I don't know what that was all about when I was watching this on Netflix. Though it was thanks to LarryBoy Purgatory that we're now introduced to yet another LarryBoy Purgatory. So, seeing that I've survived the first one, I decided to take on LarryBoy Purgatory again. This time, we're taking our fight to VeggieTales in the city. We're gonna fist fight this monstrosity. Or at least give it a scolding. I don't know. So I binge-watched the show for an hour 30 to see which episodes to consider for this review special. And honestly, this wasn't as draining as the first LarryBoy Purgatory because VeggieTales in the House had 4 seasons while this show only had 2. So that made my job easier, I guess. I counted 7 episodes total. We have Night Phony, Space Pirates, Apricot, Jimmy Makes a Comic Book, and Where's the Mayor, which are from Season 1. And then we have The Last Issue and Attack of the Marshmallow Laser from Season 2. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit that I wasn't as disappointed in these not LarryBoy episodes as I was in the first LarryBoy Purgatory. I will say that LarryBoy shows up for a good while in a couple of these, but regardless, I still included those 2 because they're not as good as something like LarryBoy and the Bad Apple or LarryBoy and the Bad Apple. Basically, folks, they're just as purgatory worthy as the episodes that barely have them in it, or not at all. So like last time, I'll spend at least 2 minutes on each of these, and then I'll list them from best to worst episode at the end of the video. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to like Night Pony. Whoa! Did I say that out loud? All kidding aside, this episode is mainly about her. Well, why the heck not? LarryBoy is barely in this one. He's either too busy coloring or too busy messing with balloons. Wait, I thought he was afraid of balloons. You know, that's one thing this episode got wrong. So what's the story? Well, this story has been done over and over, let's just say. Night Pony is jealous that Junior Jetpack can save people way better than she can because he has a jetpack. Yeah, that old story. Somebody being jealous of another person and trying to be better than that other person. But so what, Laura? You're into Ninja Pony cosplay. Isn't that enough? The only time we get to spend with LarryBoy is that he talks to her and gives her a little morale via song. Now, the song sequence was a little fun, because that's all LarryBoy gets to do in this episode, believe me. You know, I like that during this scene he rides on a sardine. Wow. Well, I can happily say that I'm not the only one that likes mustard on sardines. Just saying. Anyway, back to the story. Potato says that he's waiting for a package containing a special helmet that can do anything that he tells it to do. Well, to an extent. So there's a mix-up with the mail, and Laura ends up getting the helmet. Yeah, that old story, the old switcheroo. So rather than do the right thing and give the helmet to LarryBoy, Laura tries out the helmet and then tries to use it with her superhero persona. It doesn't work well. But that's okay because LarryBoy is way too busy playing with balloons to care. Yeah, this is real screenwriting, folks. Get used to it. Eventually, Potato gets back the helmet, and he causes trouble. Obviously. Then Night Pony and Junior Jetpack fight Potato in a decent fight scene. But seriously, shouldn't LarryBoy be doing all of this? Or at least contribute to this fight scene? And they destroy the helmet. And the moral of the story is to appreciate who you are and what you're good at. Simple plot, simple message. I don't know, it was way too simple for me. Moving on. So I ever wished that LarryBoy can go into space? Obviously, that didn't cross anyone's mind when writing the script to this next episode. So Larry, just Larry the Cucumber folks, goes into space to put a flag on the moon. But first, he stops by the Veggies International Space Station, which I didn't know existed until I watched this episode. You know what? Maybe the next spin-off would be called VeggieTales in Space. Oh wait. Netflix, big idea? Please don't do that. Just stick with what you got. Or make a LarryBoy show, or make VeggieTales in Purgatory. No wait, no. Don't do that one either. That would be awkward. And Madame Blueberry warns him about space pirates. And then, oh my gosh, he runs into space pirates. Well, someone cheated and read the script ahead of time. So they throw pies at Larry, and rather than changing into LarryBoy to deal with this problem, he rides back to the space station and plans to throw a big giant pie back at the villains. Honestly, that would have been great if LarryBoy was in this episode, but he wasn't because, again, that didn't cross anyone's mind when writing this episode. Hang on, if this episode was about LarryBoy, throw in the Fib from Outer Space while you're at it. I mean, come on, those are ideas that you should be writing down, people. I came up with that in a millisecond. Madame Blueberry tells him that he has to be nice to the bad guys, even though they're the ones being a nuisance, and they literally do the oldest trick in the book joke on him. Why was that necessary? So they appease Potato with a giant pie, and then the episode ends. Now I only have one question. Why don't Potato and his minions have space helmets on? I mean, they would die in space. I mean, seriously, this episode would have ended badly if they were that honest with us. Yeah, that would be bad. But my point is, the only word to describe this episode is meh. Why? Because it's a generic space story with generic morals and a really, really generic letdown. But whatever, that's nothing compared to what we're about to see next. So get ready. No, really, get ready because, you know what, just get ready. Okay, now you can get ready. Now here's a fun question. What would happen if you combined the story from the Fib from Outer Space with a villain like the Bad Apple? Well, this episode is a hybrid of both. I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say this. If it does, then oh well. So let me introduce you to the deformed creature known as the Apricot episode. The Veggie heroes show up, and Jimmy Boy is sad that he's not as good as a superhero as the others. Well, I guess the show saw my LarryBoy Purgatory video and realized that they shouldn't have made the Jimmy Boy episode in the first place. But oh no, they're being watched by a villain, simply known as Apricot. Where do I start with this? First of all, Apricot is similar to the Bad Apple for a number of reasons. 1. She has a secret lair that lets her spy on people. 2. She has a dopey sidekick character that acts as Carnival Barker at some point. And 3. She's able to get into the hero's lair at some point and trap him there. Second of all, despite the similarities, Apricot is only a carbon copy of the Bad Apple. So she's already just as generic a villain as Potato. So Apricot convinces the dumbest hero of the bunch to lie about his hero status by making up stories to the supercomputer on how he saved the day, because apparently the computer rates the heroes by their good deeds or something. So, yeah, how she convinces him to lie is similar to how the Fib convinced Junior to lie. She tells him that lying is quote unquote enhancing the truth. You heard right, that's an actual quote from the episode. I'm not gonna lie, it's similar to what the Fib said to Junior when telling him to lie. What we're talking about here is just a little fib. People do it all the time. Translation? Enhancing the truth. So after manipulating Jimmy, she has all the heroes tied up while she goes to the Veggie Town to claim her victory. But then Jimmy confesses to lying and he chases Apricot across town and he saves the day. Well, at least Jimmy did something heroic for once, rather than taking credit for Larry Boy's hero identity like in that Jimmy Boy episode. I don't want to talk about that episode. That was stupid. And then they have a concert. Hooray! You know, fun fact, I've always wanted to read a LarryBoy comic book. Well, not these in particular. And that's one good thing that this episode gives us, is the idea of a LarryBoy comic. But the majority of the episode is not about him. The real plot is that Jimmy learns that Bob made a LarryBoy comic book, but when he shows it to the shop owner, Avocado. Yeah, I'm not making that up when I say that name. Or at least try to. The shop owner is amazed by the comic, and Jimmy lies to everyone that he himself made the book. But Bob finds out about it and tells Jimmy to tell the truth, which doesn't go well because he's pressured by the fame that he's getting for the book. Well, it's not the first time that Jimmy took credit for someone else's stuff. Am I right, Jimmy boy? So, like a doofus, Jimmy shambles together another issue of the LarryBoy comic. It sucks. Telling by the illustrations, this was probably done by the same person that gave us the Alchemist slideshow. By the way, I like how they showed Jimmy's struggle to write that comic, with him going through paper and throwing it away instantly. That's probably the writing process of the people who wrote these episodes, and those from the first Purgatory video. Whoop, there goes draft 1, and those are the other drafts crumbled up in the trash can. Eventually, Jimmy confesses about lying. Again. Amazingly, I didn't find this episode offensive. This episode was absolutely harmless. However, with a good-looking LarryBoy comic, why aren't we watching an episode about that? And why don't we have this comic rather than the cheaply made and cheaply priced comics that I got online? By the way, I'm going to make an episode on those comics real soon. Well, the title of the episode doesn't lie. Mayor Archibald does indeed go missing, and the Veggie heroes are called to City Hall. Yeah, rather than LarryBoy having a butler in this series, Archie got reduced to being mayor, which was clearly Madame Blueberry's job. What happened? Speaking of Madame Blueberry, she's gone detective now. For no reason, other than she has a lot of spare time. She wants to help out on the case, but LarryBoy basically tells her to get lost. Okay, listen, LarryBoy. I know that we're trying to get you back into the spotlight and make you the main character again, but geez, if you're gonna tell someone to stay out of your story, at least be nice about it. Well, except for Jimmy. It was his fault for stealing your hero status. Eventually, they find Archie, but for some reason, he's acting weird. And there's a reason for that, don't worry. Well, worry because you won't believe the outcome. Apparently, Madame Blueberry is suspicious of the mayor, but of course, no one listens. Now she's making me suspicious about all this. What is going on? Archie invites the heroes for tea, but oh my gosh! He's wearing an out-of-season scarf. Okay. That's not the real shocker. The real shocker is that Archie is actually Apricot, and the tea is actually drugged or something. Because the heroes fall asleep after ingesting it. Okay, now I'm expecting something like in the movie Sinister, where they find a note saying goodnight before getting axed off. Whoa, okay, no, that's not what happens in this episode. But seriously, things just got dark as is. So the heroes get locked up with the real Archibald, while an imposter takes his place and abuses his power. But don't worry, Madame Blueberry finds out what's really going on, and she rescues the heroes, while battling the broccoli sidekick, who decided to use his, I don't know, nunchucks today, whatever those are called. And then they sing a song. Well, for no reason. I mean, it seems like an inappropriate time to do that, but whatever. By the way, loving the shades, Larry Boy. Loving it. So they head down to the park to take on the imposter, and Apricot is April Caught. No, really, that's a quote from the episode. April Caught. Like apricot, apricot. Okay, now this is getting stupid. By the way, that face though. The end! All in all, this episode was somewhat interesting. This one especially had to have taken some risks here and there. I mean, the tea thing, that was really ballsy. I mean, seriously, you have some balls, Apricot. I'll give you that. The bad apple didn't do anything like that. But hey, let's not get carried away here. And now on to season 2 of this spin-off Goof Off. This next episode starts with, want to know how to make important characters useless in your show? Well, here's an idea. Show them waiting in line to buy a new comic book. Yep, that's really how they start this episode. Seriously, are there any crimes that they could be investigating right now? Oops, right on cue. Potato is at Paul Grape's shop trying to make off with the entire building. Paul Grape calls for help, and our heroes... No. Only Night Pony goes off to save him while the other heroes wait in line for the comic book. And guess what? Night Pony gets captured. And then, a few at a time, the heroes get out of line, get caught, until LarryBoy is the only one left in line. Only concerned about getting the comic. So leave it to Mr. Lunt, the various jobs guy, who by now has a large resume, to give LarryBoy some advice via comic book and song. Now the song, I think it has a strong message. Not because of what's going on in the scene, but because it sends itself a message that LarryBoy should be utilized more in this series rather than let other people save the day, or then take a back seat and show up a few percentage of the time. Now, how this episode ends is also noteworthy. They actually have LarryBoy going to save his crew and saving the day in this episode. You know, I haven't seen that since the For the Honor of LarryBoy episode. Or, if you're a LarryBoy fan like me, since LarryBoy and the Bad Apple. I'll give it that. They actually have him save the day this time. Good job. Thank you. I appreciate it. Maybe there's hope for LarryBoy after all. Now let's get back to Purgatory. We're almost done, but one more thing. I would also commend the climax for at least trying. They have LarryBoy going after Potato. It's passable. Okay, now we're going through the rest of Purgatory. Like Where's the Mayor, the title here doesn't lie. It is what it is. Potato and Apricot are partners in this episode. Boy, I haven't seen that bland of villainous partnership since... They have a laser gun called the Marshmallow Laser. Nah, too boring of a weapon. Kinda like the Over Easy Ray, but it fires marshmallows. Speaking of firing, LarryBoy is the first hero to get shot by this laser gun. So, the previous episode that we just saw, the last issue episode with him saving the day and being a legitimate hero for once, instantly out the window. Then from some odd reason, Potato and Night Pony get trapped inside a building encased in marshmallow, so they work together to get out. Now I like how these two characters built this character bonding thing, Not so much as getting to know each other because one person doesn't want to change while the other wants to be friends. Well, makes sense to me. Anyway, back to the insanity that we're about to get into. We get to Matato's lair and what a surprise! Apricot turns on Matato by trapping him in one of his own cages. She then tells him about how she's a better villain than he is. Well, yes and no. Yes, because Matato as a villain is too much of a wiener, and he's not the only wiener, I'll tell you that. And no, because let's face it, Apricot, you'll never be as good as the bad apple. You're just a carbon copy of her, so you have no authority here. And then Matato sings a song about needing a friend. It's weird, it's annoying, I don't care for it. So Night Pony rescues Matato, and Matato stands up to Apricot and takes her down. Now guys, get ready for this next part, because this next part, honestly, was unexpected. I didn't see this coming, and I never thought that this would happen. Matato decides to give up villainy for good. He wants to be a good person instead of an evil one. He destroys his evil lair, and then tells the heroes that he wants to join them. Like I said, I never thought this would happen. I am not making this up. In fact, I never imagined Matato as a superhero. Maybe the next season would confirm that. Oh wait! Oh wait! And that was the second LarryBoy Purgatory. And now it's time to list each episode from best to worst. So it would go as follows. Where's the Mayor? The Last Issue. Apricot. Jimmy Makes a Comic Book. Night Phony. Attack of the Marshmallow Laser. And Space Pirates. Where's the Mayor is on top because LarryBoy was not completely useless in this episode, even though Madame Blueberry came out on top. But what I liked about this episode was that it took risk, almost like what LarryBoy and the Bad Apple did with the imagery and character study. A major character study, seeing that she's a seductress. The plot was interesting and, like I said, LarryBoy was not completely useless in this. Now, I listed Space Pirates as the worst because with a plot like fighting space pirates, I mean, it's the title, you know. With a space station, with racing to the moon, and all that, that would have been a good setup for a LarryBoy story. But sadly, the show chose not to go that route, which forced us to yell at the screen, or tablet, and ask why the story's conflict couldn't be solved differently, like giving us a legitimate space battle between LarryBoy and Matato. I wish that big idea would do something better for LarryBoy, but with the present rumors of VeggieTales ending, that hope may be hard to come by. So yeah, that was my second LarryBoy Purgatory. Hopefully VeggieTales can get its act together and do something good for once. Now I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you liked this video, please give it a like and please subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching. This was fun to make, just like the first LarryBoy Purgatory video. And on that note, this has been the LarryBoy Fanatic, the eyes and plunger ears of the LarryBoy universe. See ya guys!